Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of Denmead Parish Council's Amenities Committee, taking place in the Barn Green Room at Denmead Community Centre in School Lane. It's Wednesday the 5th of March 2025 and the time is 7:30. I'm Councillor Langford Smith, I'm Chair of this committee. Around the table we have our other elected members. The meeting is being recorded and the recording of this meeting will be uploaded to the Council's YouTube channel. Please can I remind everyone to ensure that your mobile phones are switched off. In the unlikely event that we need to evacuate the building, the fire alarm will sound and we exit via that door, and depending on where the fire is, there's an exit at that end and there's also an exit that way. Just follow the councillors. To ensure the smooth running of the meeting, I ask that no one calls out or interrupts the proceedings. And in accordance with public speaking protocols of the meeting, we will have a public participation session. That is your opportunity to address council on any matters that are on the agenda this evening. So, with no further ado, I will get on with the meeting. The first item on our agenda this evening is apologies, to receive any apologies for absence. And we have received late apologies from Councillor Stallard. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Arising from this agenda, members and officers are invited to declare any relevant interests. Notwithstanding this item, members may subsequently declare an interest at any point during the meeting. Councillor Andrioli.
Declare a personal and prejudicial on item 12.1, Chair. It's a discussion of correspondence from a neighbour.
Okay, thank you very much. That's duly noted. Do we have any other declarations this evening? Okay, thank you very much. Item 3 is election of a vice chair, but bearing in mind we are now in March and we start a new municipal year in May, I think we'll just move on to the next agenda item, which is item 4, minutes of the previous meeting. To receive and confirm the accuracy of the minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of January 2025. These have been circulated to everybody. Is everybody agreed that these are a true record of the meeting? Show of hands, please. Thank you. I will sign. Thank you, Francis. Thank you very much, Francis. So we'll move on to item 5, which is the public participation session. The meeting will, if required, recess for no more than 15 minutes for questions and comments from members of the public on matters appertaining to this committee. If you are here for an agenda item but you don't wish to speak, please let us know, because I will bring the items forward and we'll deal with those before we deal with everything else that's on the agenda, unless you want to stay with us until 9:30 this evening, which you are, of course, more than welcome to do. So, would anybody like to address us on matters on the agenda this evening? If you could state your name for the clerk, that would be appreciated.
My name is Sarah Green, and I'm the proprietor of Denmead Preschool.
Okay. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Good evening, everybody, and it's good to be here. I'm here to speak to the items 9.1 and 9.2. I had to start by saying it's not weird coming here tonight because I actually went to school here. It's a school, but it's very strange. But anyway, I thank you for this opportunity to support our request, which has come up under items 9.1 and 9.2. Excuse me for reading, but it's just easier to make sure.
No, of course.
So, by way of background, I understand that you will have seen my email to Francis, which confirms that Denmead Preschool has been part of the village community for a very large number of years, and we actually have children attending now whose grandparents attended when they were young. So I hope this helps to demonstrate our commitment to the village. And you may know, or may have seen, that we take the children out into the community. This is both to enhance their education and also to be a presence in the village. Recent examples have been visits to Denmead Grange Care Home, which is something we hope to continue and to foster relations with, and we sort of started what we call spreading friendship in the village by handing out flowers. That's just a little bit of background to the school. Now, as you may be aware, the Heathfield used to have a permanent fence on it, which was removed in May 2018. And although we had asked for permission at the time to put up our own fence, this was not taken up, and I don't believe knowledge. I wasn't actually directly involved at the time, although it was my mother who was the proprietor, so we've got a long family standing at the school. However, I do know that there was a good deal of discussion about the removal of the fence, which had been voted on at the parish council meeting in November 2017, and the preschool made representations to both the district and the county councils, as well as the local MP to petition about the removal of the fence. However, the area was designated as a dog-free zone, for which we were very grateful. Although I do note, however, that there's currently some conflicting signage about the dogs being allowed in the field. So the entrance from the car park states no dogs, whereas the entrance gate from Ashton Gardens merely asks people to clean up after their dogs, so it might be useful to have some clarification on this. So in order to keep the children safe, we have been putting up a temporary fence on an area that since 2018 we have rented from the parish council. I would like to note that prior to the removal of the fence, we were allowed to make use of the field without charge. We have an increased number of SEN, that is children with special education needs, and we also have a couple of children who are what we call flight risks. This means that they try to run away. One in particular has escaped twice from previous settings in the village. As a result, the current house fencing that we've put up is becoming increasingly difficult to manage, and naturally the safeguarding of the children in our care is of utmost importance to us. Just out of interest, and maybe for the clerk or the finance officer to note, we did receive an invoice this afternoon for the period April 24 to March 25, yet we have actually settled that last July. I do have all the details with me, if that would help to show you afterwards. So our first request we made in 2017 and again in 2024 was to be allowed to put up a more permanent structure, such that the children would be kept safe, but we would of course not want to restrict access to that area for purposes of maintenance. When we are not using the memorial hall, obviously the gate would be left open and it would be up to yourselves to determine who had access to any keys for that area. Naturally, as we're suggesting this, we are willing to pay for the fence to be in a design agreed by all parties together with its exact location. Currently we just have a small sketch plan of the from the parish council maps with a little diagram on it where we put our fence up. We would be prepared to arrange for the fence to be erected and ideally as soon as possible. I was very pleased to read that the Heathfield has been designated as an asset of community value, initially in 2018, which has been renewed in 2023 and so runs through till 2028. However, for being in the field every day, we feel that it's quite underutilised, and the preschool and myself were very keen that there is an increase in the use of what is actually such a valuable asset to the community. Ultimately, we would welcome the opportunity to work with the parish council to develop the area in a sympathetic way. So I'm here this evening with some of my staff who've come along to join me, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have about our use of the Heathfield and to open up what we hope will be a conversation that is mutually beneficial to us all. We'd also be very happy to invite you and welcome you to visit us so that you can see for yourselves what we do for our outdoor activities. And finally, just regarding 9.1, the Willow Dome, we would welcome clarification as to where the responsibility lies for its maintenance. We understood this to be the Denmead in Bloom Committee, but as that committee has now been disbanded, we appear to be in limbo. Whilst we've done what we can to keep it in some sort of order, it is in a state of disrepair, and we would suggest that it is beyond rejuvenation, and perhaps it could be taken down to increase that space in that area, but obviously that's for your decision and discussion do have any questions, I'd be very happy to answer them, and I don't think my colleagues have anything to add. I have written it down. If you want it sent to you, I'd be very happy to do so.
That would be very handy. Thank you, that's appreciated. Councillors, do you have any questions? Councillor Brown.
I do have one. You mentioned about the if the area was to be fenced, that it would be open to anyone. Yeah. Then, in following on in that statement, you said that it would be up to us to decide who keys were allowed to. That by its nature.
Well, at the moment we put up a house fence every morning. We take it down every evening.
I'm talking about permanent fence. You stated that it would be open to everyone, but then you further stated that it would be locked.
Well, we would need to lock it when we were there for the security of the children, but obviously when we were not there, the gate would be able to be left open, and it would be up to yourselves as to who had keys to that area. I'm thinking about the maintenance of it.
That's my point. Why, if it's open to everyone, then it can't be locked.
Well, it would need to be locked when the children were there.
Understandably. But
it doesn't need to be locked at all. I think we were feeling that you may want to have it locked when we weren't there. But if you don't want it locked when we're not there, then it can be open all the time. It will need to be locked when we would be needing to maintain the safeguarding and security of the children.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. No, that's fine, thank you. Any further questions at this stage? Okay, thank you. Does anyone else wish to address us? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks to the committee for this opportunity to address you. My name is Mark Walsh, and I live in 22 Great Mead. I'm here with my wife, Lisa Walsh. And we want to address you on the agenda items 12.4 and 12.5. Hopefully the committee's had opportunity to cite to see my written response that I submitted. So I won't go into too much detail of what I've already done there. But just to summarise, I just wish to address the committee about the request from our neighbour to lay slabs on the public land. This public land forms part of the shared estate between our three houses. So although you find people that administrators over that, the land belongs to all of the public. We've only been there a year, and since we've been in there a year, our right of access has been frustrated by our neighbours. Firstly, installing bollards onto the public lands, which affects us being able to reverse safely on and off the drive. They've laid rocks on their boundary, which is their boundary. That's going to lead to a deep legal dispute ultimately, which the council has probably been dragged into, because overnight the council installed bollards without consulting anybody else on that shared estate. We just woke up to find them being put in with our neighbour directing exactly where they should go. Thankfully, they were removed pending the decision for this council. What we just want to say is that what's going on there is a land grab. Part of the public land has already been acquired by a neighbour, and that's been confirmed by a recent up-to-date survey which was done by City Fibre, which I would make available to the council. It just shows how much the original boundary has been altered. So now our resident has acquired quite a big part of that public land, and they want to acquire further that by laying slabs to extend their already double drive, and then put posts in, which affects us getting them on and off that drive. It's said that it needs to be done in order to protect the grass. However, if you lay slabs there permanently, that permanently kills the grass, so that doesn't protect the grass at all. And the initial bollards that were installed by the council, there was only 3 of them on a very small section of the grass. Yet the actual part of the grass that's been damaged is right at the end, which is where City Fibre installed bollards temporary. So it's not always in that state of disrepair. It's actually in quite good order usually. So it's not really a fair representation if that's being used as evidence that the grass should be protected. And lastly, I'll just say that the land in question is protected in covenant. There's a covenant on when the estate was built in the 80s to say that nothing would be erected on the shared boundary to this property. And if the council committee were minded to put them in, we'll just say then we're now in a position where we bought property a year ago where the legal advice was, when we asked about the right of access, that it was public land, it would always be protected, and your right of access is called an express right, which is an absolute right, it doesn't require a third party. If you put those bollards in, what you're essentially doing is, we only own small cars at the moment, but was to get a big car in the future, or in particular the reason the access is needed is because for maintenance, because it is such a tight, it was built in the 80s, and none of us drive Austin Metros anymore, unfortunately, and the builders didn't have foresight to think how things might develop. That would prohibit the kind of maintenance vehicles that everyone else enjoys on their property, such as, you know, being a detached house where you've got to maintain the chimney because of health and safety regulations now, they won't do that without scaffolding. And it'd be quite preposterous to say, no, you can't have that on there because we decided to put balconies on and we want that for us to be absolute 100% protected all the time. It just seems illogical to us. But thank you for your time and consideration. Oh yeah, and lastly, the important thing, this has really came about because estate agents are in the process of valuing. This resident's made a request that they're selling their property. So what they're actually trying to do is increase the value of their property and to say, since we moved in, they've always treated the public land adjacent to their property as their own land. When we moved in, we actually believed it was their land because it's so close to them. So when we first moved in and they told us that's our land, don't go on it, we protect it. It was only recently when the post situation happened, we got legal advice and they said, actually that's the council land, and that's who we went to say, you know, can you help us and look into this matter? But, is that it? Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have questions of Mr Walsh? Okay, thank you. Does anybody else wish to address council this evening? Sir.
I'll stand up so you can see my lips moving. I'm Keith Lambert, treasurer of the Denley Golf Club, and we put in applications on the last committee meeting, seeking certain relaxations, etc. What I'm trying to do tonight is to seek enlightenment. I'm fairly ignorant of due process that you go through, and although you were very amenable towards our requests last time, and you said you had no objections with a few comments, there were two things that left me asking myself various questions that I can't answer. One is you were looking into whether you had to refer a rewriting of the lease to a solicitor, and I don't know how that's going to come back to us. And similarly, although you had no objections to any of the requests that we had, I'm not sure whether that constitutes an agreement or whether it's just put it in limbo. In other words, do we get, we haven't had a response to our letters, do we get a response, or does the fact that the minutes have gone through and accepted mean that we can carry on to what we want to do?
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Brown.
I'll refer back to the last meeting. It was actually agreed that Councillor Jones and I would come and have another meeting with you to discuss further matters once we had sought clarification from the solicitors on whether a lease needed to be rewritten and on the other points that were raised. So there isn't an agreement to carry on with any of the points that were raised. It will be brought back to you in a meeting in a timely manner as soon as we can get an answer from the solicitors, and then we can arrange a meeting with you.
Okay.
So that will be the next steps.
Have we got any kind of timescale for that?
At the moment, I'm away. I will be away until mid-April, away on holiday from later on this month. So it will be latter half of April at the earliest.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else wish to address council this evening?
Hi there, my name is Charlotte Baxter-Hassel, and I'm here with representation for Greening Denmead. So I wanted to speak to you about point 12.2 on the land behind the bungalows on Ashton Park Road. I know it was discussed in the last council meeting, Amenity Council meeting, about the use of this land to be developed as a community garden. And I know that you have to do some further investigations with regards to a cable that runs through the site. And I wanted to understand from councillors in the room whether there were any additional objections, if you had any further questions, and if there's an opportunity to receive this as we are in great growing season. So I don't want it to be decided in November and we've missed out. So does anybody have any questions or anything that they would like to discuss further?
Thank you. Does any member of council have a question for Ms Baxter Hassel? Nope. Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody else wish to address committee this evening? No? Okay, in which case we will deal with those in the order that they are on the agenda. So 9.1 and 9.2 first, then 12.2 and then 12.4 and 12.5 if members are in agreement. Thank you. So item 9.1 is maintenance of the Willow Dome. To consider the maintenance of the Willow Dome at Heathfield. Excuse me for a moment whilst I get my papers in order. Thank you. So, as you correctly stated, this was put in by Denmead and Bloom, and we were aware that Denmead and Bloom was considering giving up doing the maintenance that they have been doing in the village. When they requested that this was put in, we were advised at the time that the resident that ran Denmead and Bloom, who lives very close to the area, and we were advised that they would continue to maintain the Willow Dome. I believe that we've written to her, and have we had a response? No, we've not had a response. That's the current situation, members. Any views? Councillor West and then Councillor Brown.
I haven't seen it on, but if it's in that much disrepair, maybe people can move it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brown?
It is unfortunate that people aren't taking on projects that were started for the village, but as we've had to, the larger Willow Dome on Harvest Field, we've had to have flailed because we couldn't get anyone to maintain that, and that's a lot more work than the smaller one. So I'll listen to Councillor Andreoli first.
Councillor Andreoli.
Well, our visitor suggested that it was in such a state that it'd perhaps be best to remove it. We have no one to maintain it, so it might well be a good idea as well to remove it. It was originally put to us, it was put in for the benefit of the youngsters of the preschool, but maintenance is a problem. So I would propose that we have it removed.
Please second that.
Okay, so we have a proposal that it's removed, and that's seconded by Councillor Jones. Are we all agreed that we ask for our grounds team to add that to their list of tasks to undertake for us? Can I have a show of hands then, please? That's unanimous. Thank you. So we'll speak to the head groundsman and see when is a good time for that to be removed. Obviously, the staff need to work, and so it would need to be a time when the children are not using the area. We'll ask Francis to liaise with you. Item 9.2 is permanent fencing. To consider a request from Denmead Preschool for a permanent fence around the section of Heathfield used by them to consider and determine action. You were quite correct, this was subject to a lot of discussion at the time. There was signs on the War Memorial Hall saying that the field was for the exclusive use of hirers of the hall. There was a fence, and there was a gate, and that was kept locked. And Parish Council decided that they wanted to remove the fence in order to open it up so that it's free access for everybody to use at any point. And it was agreed that the preschool, as all the other preschools in the village, can use temporary fencing to fence off an area to make it secure for the children when they play. So that is the situation. Members? Councillor Brown.
As we don't allow any preschools to erect any permanent fences around any of their areas. It was put in the email that was sent to us about a fence that is around the play area in Ashton Park. That has a different status in the fact that it is a designated play area for children. The Heathfield is supposedly an open field that people can use however they wish. I think, personally, I think it would be detrimental to the field for a permanent fence to be put in. And I don't see a need for it. If the fence, the school needs to put up a fence that can keep the children in, and it is down to the school to have enough staff members and enough control over the children to keep them in.
Councillor Adriani?
I must confess, I have not been around that area of Heathfield when the preschool had it fenced off, and I was a bit surprised to hear they use Harris fencing, because the equivalent preschool at the pavilion used much lighter weight clipped together fencing.
Crowd barriers.
Yeah. Which they've taken in out every day, and there are one adult can move each individual piece of fencing. So I'm a bit surprised that they're using such heavy metal stuff. But
Councillor Ranger?
A couple of points. Obviously, children's safety is paramount, no matter whether it's whichever school or preschool, will be protecting the children from and all the, I was going to say the scallywags that run away, but I don't suppose they're scallywags at that age, but in terms of protecting the children. But also, if the preschool are offering to fund and pay and install the fencing, no matter what type it will be designed in the future, and on the basis that they would maintain, and if they preschool were to vacate that premise to another position that they would remove the fence, I don't really see a problem with them having the fence there to protect the children. I think that the safety of the children is far more paramount than the protocol of whether a fence should be on one particular field or another, in my opinion.
Okay, there is also the consideration that the field is hired, and when people hire it, in terms of safety, they need to be able to evacuate the premises swiftly, and therefore a fence is a barrier, and that's one of the reasons that we took it out in the first place, was because no one could use the field for events because they can't evacuate it quickly. If there is a fence in the way, it fails all health and safety.
Would I be allowed to say?
Sorry, the public session's closed. Councillor Ranger.
In that case, then, in terms of fire safety, is it any value in having a fire safety officer review the situation to confirm whether that permanent fence, no matter how high or low or exits, would be still a barrier to it? Because I can't imagine, I don't know what size of fence we're talking about, whether it's a 6 foot or a 3 foot or whatever, but in terms of some independent fire safety advice to confirm that would be useful perhaps.
Okay. Any further comments?
I agree with Councillor Ranger as well, because I think, children's safety is paramount, and surely there must be a way around that we can come to an amicable agreement on both sides that's keeping the children safe, but also allowing people to be able to use the field.
I do know council at the time deemed that the temporary fence was a compromise, which meant that we could still hire the field out. It meant that it was open access for everybody when the school weren't using it, but using a temporary fence would serve the purpose of ensuring that the children were kept safe at all times. Councillor Brown.
I find it hard to find and why a temporary fence isn't sufficient. Why does it have to be a permanent fence? The preschool that is at the pavilion uses a temporary fence, which is put up and taken down every day. It's crowd barrier fencing, and they do that every day. I don't see an issue with it. I don't see why it needs to be a permanent fence.
I've also just been advised by the clerk, which has also reminded me, another reason that we took the fence down was because we were told at the time that if the facility was not used and it was fenced off, then we were told that in effect we are disposing of an asset and that it should be open for public use at all times because it's owned by the council, and therefore having it closed off would be tantamount to disposal. So we could seek further advice on that point if council wished. Councillor West.
I'm sure you're not talking about fencing off the whole area we did before, just fencing off the area they went. So it's leaving the rest of the area open for use.
That wasn't clear in your statement. The fence that was there previously was a fence that fenced off the grass area, and there was a gate in there which was kept locked.
That's not the area we're talking about.
Harris fencing is a substantial fencing. I mean, if used properly, if it's got a proper feet of the 2 cliffs, children won't get through it. We use it all the time on our building sites to protect the public, stop access to anywhere where it shouldn't be needed. So the issue that it's a problem, or a problem, should I say, the noise, taking it in and out every night. Is that one of the main problems? Sorry, I can't.
Yes, you may.
Sorry.
Right, so it's not the fact of us taking it in and out every night, it's the fact that children can fit underneath it even though we've got barriers on it, and they can fit through it if they really wanted to. If they manoeuvre enough, they can get through it, and they can be really quick even if you're standing next to them. We've had a couple of children that have had their heads stuck in there. And basically the amount of land that we want to fence off is just the land that we've got our fence on anyway, it's not the whole field.
There's no change to the evacuation area.
So just one other comment as well, then, is if a child can fit through the panelling, then you just got it wrong.
No.
Because it fits, I use it daily, every single day. If it's together, double cliff will stop it from moving. So if you've got a single cliff,
The actual business. They can fit through the...
it's not Harris fencing, no, but Harris fencing you can't fit through.
Okay, so I would suggest in that case that we ask the preschool to provide us with specific details as to what type of fencing, where they would like it fenced, and then we also seek legal advice on us erecting a fence and in effect closing off a piece of land to members of the public. Councillor West.
You're only looking to close it off by the preschool, so it's going to be opened up to the public while they're not there.
See, this is where I'm confused, because if you have an area that's fenced off, you leave your toys out and stuff in the field anyway. So if that's inside of the area that's fenced off, that is in effect closed off. And even if the gate is open, people would not believe or understand that that is accessible. And that was the problem when it was fenced off previously.
At the point where we used to leave the toys out, if someone went like that, so I'm assuming they're getting put away every night. I mean, I suppose the only other issue
You say apart from the big things, that's toys left out overnight. Yeah, indeed, so toys are left out. So I've made a proposal. Does anybody second that? Someone have an alternative? Okay, thank you. Can I have a show of hands then, please? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you. If you could provide the clerk with the relevant, specifically marking out with coordinates exactly where you would like to fence off and with what type of fencing, etc. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we'll now move on to item 12.2, which is greening Denmead. So 12.2, land behind the bungalows on Ashling Park Road. So there was a query last time with regards to a cable. We are aware that there's a cable running through there. And so Councillor West very kindly provided us with a document which showed that the cable actually runs, so you have the row of bungalows, the cable actually runs alongside of that fence. So it would seem logical to me that provided all of your raised planters and everything were to the left, so if you're down at White Wings End, it's behind the bungalows on the right hand side. If you kept that as a walkway, a very wide walkway, sorry, Councillor West.
Well, yeah, so the carry on that drawing would be updated with the cable in it, which could be 20 years ago. So if someone's done something different at that point, the drawing wouldn't have changed. So if someone has moved the fence line or lowered the ground, then the cable won't be in that position. So although it's a very good indicator of where it was, it would still need to be proved to be there. And I'm happy to assist with that, but I just want to make sure everyone aware that just because the drawing says it's there, it doesn't mean it's in there.
So no digging at all in that.
Sorry?
No digging at all in that.
On that bit, so it's proof where it is.
Indeed, yeah. Francis.
Whilst I note where the cable is, the covenant on the land says that we cannot put anything over the blue line on the plan. Honestly, I'm not trying to be awkward, but the covenant is that we will not at any time construct or erect any building, fence, walls, plant any tree or shrub or electric cables, or do anything whereby the cover of soil over the cables will be altered or interfered with, and they have to have free access to go and move the cables if they wish to.
Gary?
It's standard. You can put a shed over it and you can put a plant over it. If you stuck just guessing this, you stuck a gravity bush on top of it and the roots go down that far, no one's going to complain. If it goes down and affects the cable, the gravity bush now wouldn't, but you can stick an tree on top of it. But there will be, once you've identified the cable, basically you can turn around and instead of it's a standard thing, they don't want to stick a machine down there, but what they would do with that, the cable, and they would just replace it.
Am I allowed to know what the cable is running?
It's a HP cable.
It's electricity.
Yeah, it's an HP cable, so it's providing a lot of damage power.
Yeah, and it's in our interest not to.
No. You would, I would hope you wouldn't get to it, but it would just need proving where it is. That is simple enough to do.
Yeah, and you believe it's along the back line of the road.
Yes.
Fine. So overall, if you, Francis, sorry, did you say that there's a blue line down the middle of the?
On the covenant document, there is a blue line, that wide blue line down the middle, but the document that Gary has shown us shows the red cable running alongside the fences.
And is the covenant linked to the cable?
The covenant is from the electricity board saying that we're not allowed to put anything over it.
So why would we need just making sure that they all back it. No one moves it.
And is that an SGN thing?
No, SSE.
Okay.
It's an electricity cable, not gas. Yeah. Councillor West, how do we identify exactly where the cable is?
Ask me nicely and I'll do it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I can get it marked out. Exactly where it is. It's not a problem.
Would you?
Yeah, of
So I'm trying to kind of facilitate that this happens as opposed to not happening. Councillor Brown.
Our clerk clearly has issues with the covenants. Can Councillor West answer whether we are likely to have issues with the covenant? Because if we are, then we can't be, nothing can go in there.
Mainly one have issues with it, from my experience and what I do on it. And that is what I do. say, if they turned up there and you do it, or you plant it over top of it, don't have access to it, they would just put the machines in and put it out of the way before patterns on it, they would just do that, they just stick clear of it. If the cable was that bad, they would just go and relay it. And the idea of that line of reason is that because they got the cable in it, chances are after 2 metre even in metre each side, it's just giving them room to work on it. So once we identify it, we must say, don't it, this is your stop line. But there'll be a footpath area.
I'm sure the people in the bungalows would prefer us to be more in, you know, in the middle area.
That would be one of my days of walkway. You know, we can do like that.
Views?
So I'm not ready to allow it.
Okay.
Doing this by licence to cultivate.
Yes. So we're suggesting that we do a licence to cultivate on this land. So it's subject to our standard licence to cultivate terms. It means that we don't need to draw up different agreements or anything like that. Councillor Brown?
I presume, me talking about padlocks earlier on, this would be an area that would be padlocked off as it is already.
It is at the moment already.
And the fact that our ground staff would have access to it as well.
Yes.
And I presume SSE need to have access to it.
I think
they won't have a key on it.
no, they would just contact the parish office. Yeah.
So are we giving them a key?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So I'm proposing that we do this under a licence to cultivate. We ask Councillor West to assist with the location of the cable and that right hand side from the White Wings end is used as a very wide walkway. Councillor Ranger.
If the review of the cable by Councillor West determines that something's slightly different to the diagram, then does the licence to cultivate go ahead, or does it come back to the table?
It will come back to the table.
Okay. 'Cause I'm sure that Councillor West is correct, and I'm sure that everything is in line with the 25-year-old map of Southern Electric or whatever it is, but things may have changed. That's my only concern.
Southern Electric were quite good at mapping their underground assets, unlike the water companies. Councillor Andreoli.
I'm happy to second a proposal to licence to cultivate, and just the greening people need to be aware that should there be a problem with that cable, they may get their stuff shoved out the way while they dig up the cable. So it's just something that they need to be aware of, and we hope it doesn't happen.
Councillor Brown?
Well, and also if they have to strike the cable and damage it, they will be liable for it.
Indeed.
And death probably.
Your shovel might be striked different shapes, but
I'll make sure it's a good
So do I have a seconder to my proposal?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So can we take a vote then, please? All those in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous.
Thank you everyone, I'm really grateful.
You can give the good news to the
Yeah,
rest of the team.
yeah, thanks.
So can you
Have we got an
liaise?
email? Can you just drop me an email?
Yeah.
I can send you an email address.
If you've got an email
Yes,
address,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
right,
I'll
okay.
forward it.
Great,
Thanks.
No problem at all.
When we get these?
I'll need to
Once
send
the
you.
agreement's signed.
I'll need to send you a couple of documents for
Yeah.
signing, and then once you've done that,
it needs to be checked first.
Yes.
License document, and then do you need us to be there to check the cable?
No.
Councillor West will liaise with Clark to get the key to sort that. And
Let me know.
I'll just come to Mark and draw up a measurements off the fence line.
perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we'll now move on to item 12.4 and 12.5. So we have photographs, etc. Item 12.4, land at Greatmead, to consider installing a deterrent on DPC land at Greatmead to stop vehicles driving over the land and causing damage. As you can see from the photographs, there's a bin with a label of 21 on it, and it's that piece of grass that we're referring to that goes up the right-hand side of the driveway. Mr Walsh's house is the one that you can just see in the far corner there on the left-hand side. And on the other picture you can see that it's the drive curves round to go in front of that property. It's number 22. Number 22. So you can see the outline plan marked here, and it's this strip of land that I've just scribbled in here. This is the strip of land. The parish council also owns the land that goes up the side of the house, which you can see in the pictures is dogwood. So the suggestion is to consider installing a deterrent. Having been and looked, I don't believe it's appropriate for us to put posts in this location. It would inhibit access across the land. It's part of the public open space. We don't tend to put posts on land in areas like this. We do tend to put it on the highway when people are parking on grass verges. Where we have licences to cultivate and things, we have put posts in, such as around Frenchies, etc. Councillor Andreoli and I visited the site. Councillor West.
Who put the post in to start with?
So originally, the resident of number 21, number 23, which is the house which is alongside of that piece of land, installed posts. We received a complaint from a resident, excuse me, at that point, advising that the posts had been put in and were causing an issue. The posts were taken out, not by us, but then the resident of number 23 contacted us and asked us to put posts in, and it should have come to committee, but it didn't. That's why it's with committee now.
I'm just confused. So I've got your names.
Mark.
Mark said that the council, the whole and the council were doing it.
Yeah,
That's not us.
Yeah,
Yes,
it was us.
It was us.
Trying to be helpful to the resident that contacted us and said there was a problem, could we go and help? So in being helpful, we didn't realise that we were causing another issue. Councillor Brown.
Looking at the grass prior to the post going in, it actually looks in quite good condition. It doesn't look like there's loads of tyre tracks and things going up and down it, and I would have thought it's the odd occasion that someone might spray over onto the grass rather than someone, as on the corner of one of the roads close by, that they permanently park on the verge and destroy it. That's not what's happening here by the look of it. It looks, the grass looks in really good condition, and I don't see any reason to put anything in there. There is, you can see there is an odd tyre mark that has dented the grass, but it's nothing.
It's my view that if we were to put posts in and a vehicle was to hit the posts, it would be our liability for the damage on the car. Just the same as people that put rocks on their verge. If it's on the edge of the highway, it's and a car hits it, it's the person who put the rocks their fault. Councillor Brown.
Technically, this isn't a highway.
No, but it is parish council land.
This is private land. The house on the left-hand side of the driveway with the house box on the corner, probably making it even more difficult to get round the corner. But I would propose that we don't put any measures in there to stop people inadvertently running on the grass.
I'd be happy to second that.
Thank you. Can we have a show of hands then, please? All those that agree that we should not be putting posts in this piece of land. That's unanimous. Thank you. Councillor Daly.
Can I suggest we fill the holes in as we made them?
Okay. Thank you. And then item 12.5, land at Great Mead. So the same location, to consider a request to put down slabs adjacent to the gate to enable access for an electric wheelchair and to prevent damage to the grass. So I think this is best seen in the picture here. So this is the gate. This panel is actually on DPC land and it's not our panel, so that has been put up in front of is it there?
No, it's
There. That one? That's the
Chair,
corner.
so I know I'm not going to speak, but I did mention that in the public speaking that I was going to hand out. I can present.
Thank you, that would be helpful.
If you can see, that's number 23. That's
Yeah.
the original boundary, which goes halfway to the garage. But it's actually been extended right in front of the garage and all the way down.
no, that's not the original land.
Oh, is it?
She's always had a path down the side here because
Yeah.
this is our land registry plan. So she's always had this bit. This bit of land is owned by number 23.
Oh, so it's here, that's where they want to put the
Oh, okay.
So,
Right,
so,
okay.
so if you look at this, that is the patio slab is there. So what you're talking about, this bit of fencing here,
is across there.
Yeah, that's what that shows. So her garden starts there, but what I'm saying is it's been extended to the full length of,
It should be halfway down there.
yeah,
Okay.
because look, even yours, all that's red, but what's actually is
yes,
down there.
but this she has got this side access, which
Yeah,
is yours
which
isn't
is there.
shown. There's this bit here that she owns.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's there. And that so the extra panel has been put across our piece of land here, and the resident is requesting to put a slab across an extra piece to bring it out here, I would assume.
Yes, so she can.
Councillor Brown.
From the land registry drawing, the gate should actually be halfway down the garage and not at the front of the garage. There should be nothing else forward of that gate, which should be halfway down the garage. Effectively, that slab that's there already is a footpath that she is allowed to have there, I would have thought, because there would, by the nature of things, there would have been a footpath in front of the gate, I would presume. Because
So let's not worry about where the gate is. The question is, do we allow slabs to be put on parish council land to facilitate use by a resident? So this could be for bins on pieces of parish council land where it's at the side of a house and people wish to locate their bins. Would we put slabs down for someone to put their bins on parish council land? So you have to look at it in the wider picture. Councillor Brown.
As the resident was complaining about damage to the grass, and has already been pointed out that by putting slabs down it would take away the grass. I don't feel we should. We have also, there has been a precedent that someone in Heathfield Road used to put some slabs down and used to do exactly that. The Heath, sorry. Put their bins on slabs that they put alongside on parish council land, and we asked them to remove them. I would propose that we don't allow them to put extra slabs down.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a proposal that we do not allow slabs to be put on parish council land, and that's been seconded. Can I have a show of hands, please? And against? And abstain? Thank you very much. So that's agreed that slabs will not be allowed. Thank you. We don't have orange green. Oh, do we? No, okay. So we go back to the beginning of the agenda this evening, not quite to the beginning, but to item 6.
Sorry, Chair, before I forget, can I ask for an item about the fence being in the wrong place to be added to the next agenda? Otherwise my memory may fail me at the end of the meeting.
Okay, we'll ask Francis to add that to the next agenda. So item 6 is matters arising and outstanding matters from previous minutes. So we have the report from Francis. So the football club tenure agreement, we have requested solicitors' deeds, creature footpath resurfacing, we're waiting for the works to be done. Damage to a TPO tree in Goodman Fields, we're waiting for work to be done. Draft terms and conditions for residents to apply to obtain surplus trees is ongoing. Site visits to be obtained for quotes for fencing, we're awaiting a quote from Benley. Drop post behind the pedestrian gate into Heathfield at Ashland Gardens, that's awaiting for the works to be done. Application for community hedge fund, that is actually a fund for hedges, not a hedge fund. It's ongoing. Tanner's View play area, preparing the tender documents is ongoing. The Jubilee plaque to go on Carpenter's Field, that's on Anmore Green, is ongoing. Legionnaires Plumbing Works is ongoing. I think we've got a query on that at the moment. It's about the temperature.
Right.
So could you speak with Joe about that one, please? Goodman Fields, we're investigating options for a new bridge. The design is being considered. Trees, the ash dieback trees need to be felled and removed. We're awaiting dates for works to be done. Willow Dome, we have discussed this evening. Oh, that's the main Willow Dome, sorry. Contact Emily Greening if they will take over maintenance. It didn't volunteer earlier, so we can ask. But it has been cut for the time being. Ashland Greenway, the pruning of trees is mostly done. The rest will be done the week commencing the end of March. Pavilion, investigating the cost of solar panels is ongoing. Social media, a reminder that no works will be carried out generally during tree nesting season. Bird nesting season in trees. And social media, confirmation that hedging works have been completed until September. Councillor West.
So I thought the Legionnaires' plan issue was sorted out. But surely it hasn't been left this long.
We got quotes and it's £21,000. So we were looking for other quotes, but it turns out there's... Sorry, Francis?
We have quotes and we have a plumber that you approved. It's trying to pin him down to a date to actually come and do that. But half the work's been done. The other half we're waiting for a date from the plumber.
So we've still got people at risk in there, Legionnaires, is it?
No, because the showers aren't being
They're
used.
not being used.
It's only the showers.
Only the showers.
The rest of the system is fine.
Okay, thank you. So we note that. Item 7 is the head groundsman's report. To receive a status report from the head groundsman to consider and determine action. Tree cutting. Tree works have started to remove the ash trees. The ash in the Ashland Road car park was removed. Overgrown hedges. Most hedges are now down to a safe, manageable height. Playground repairs. KGV Fields. The wood replacement on the 24th 2nd. Burial ground. Many items have been removed that were not permitted. That was done on the 12th of February. Southwick Road and Goodman Fields car park. The gates were without catch handles. They've been repaired by Task Welding at Portsmouth. And the Wicker Dome, last year's growth was in need of removal, and that was removed with a flail on the 17th. Thank you for that report, Sam. Councillor Brown.
Was the wood replacement not postponed? Is that what I read on the agenda?
Yes, it's later on the agenda.
Yeah.
It's all been completed apart from the cable.
Right.
Councillor Andreoli.
Could I just ask, the large tree in the Ashing Park playground, is that an ash? Do we know?
Yes.
Yeah. So that will be one of the ones that needs to go, isn't it?
Last week.
Yes. I noticed this morning when I looked out the window, it
Well,
has gone.
Okay, I will admit then that I walked past today, noted how much of the playground was fenced off, but did not notice the tree had gone. So I'll accept that my observation was not as good as I thought it was, because I did notice that a large amount of the play equipment was temporarily fenced off, but I didn't notice the tree had gone.
Okay, thank you.
It's only a small one.
So
Sorry about that. Thank
move
you.
on to item 8, Ashling Park, Ashling Pavilion, to ratify a decision to accept a booking of the pavilion by Denmead Football Club for a referee's course. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Councillor Brown?
I was,
Proposing to ratify,
Yes,
thank
yeah.
you. Seconder, show of hands please. Thank you very much, that's unanimous. 9.3 is removal of the concrete planters. To consider the quotes received for hiring equipment to enable the ground staff to remove the concrete planters at the entrance to Heathfield Car Park.
Chair.
Councillor Brown.
I'd like to, I would have preferred if we had got a quote for, if we're going this route, that we had a quote from whoever is installing the barrier to remove the, I know we said about our staff doing it,
We did.
but it would make sense if someone's coming there with machinery to be able to install a post in the ground, that they have machinery to break up and take away, and they're already charging us to take away what they dig out of the ground.
But that's not what we asked the clerk to obtain quotes for. We
I
asked the clerk to obtain quotes for our staff to remove,
I
because
do
that was what was
understand that.
discussed. So that's what we have in front of us. So hire is £134.82.
Well, it depends what you go with, who you go with and what tool you
For
use.
HSS Pro Service, speedy. £66.86 or 53, well, at same day, £40 plus £13.33 for a day. Can I ask Sam, is there a preference as to which of these you would rather hire? No. Okay. Councillor West.
Sorry, if I'm looking at that there pit there, you're going to hurt your hands using that.
It's not a
powerful
concrete
enough to
breaker,
do.
is it?
No, that's not powerful enough to do.
Sorry, which bit you're looking at?
The red,
The little red handheld one, the picture below it, which is
You need
It's not going to be. It's not going to be.
the electric road demolition breaker with a trolley at £64.68 is a more suitable piece of equipment.
There's
There's
a
paddle
petrol-
handles on either side of it, that's what you use.
There's a hydraulic breaker there.
Where's that one?
There won't be
Okay,
less
so
than
on the
£100.
back we have the petrol hydraulic breaker. Thank you.
Are our staff trained to use this equipment?
Councillor West.
you don't. When you go and hire it, they would turn on and turn off. You don't need any other training for it. You just need to make sure you've got a correct piece and you can follow it out. That's what we're talking about. That petrol hydraulic breaker.
Yeah.
Which I'm assuming will have reasonable.
The only thing
Without
that's which is the
anti-vibration
planters
handles on it.
vertical. So you're going to try to do it that way.
Yeah, that's fine. You will do that anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't know if many useful.
I can't hold it enough. I don't think it's strong enough to hold it. I would recommend the petrol hydraulic breaker pack. Councillor West agrees. There's that one. Can I have a show of hands? Sorry, Councillor Brown, did you wish to say something?
I still go back to what I know what we discussed earlier and we separated it, but it does not make sense if we are getting someone to come in and do the rest of the work and charge us for taking away what they're taking out of the ground. It does not make sense for our staff to do that part of it.
It may well take more than a day for those planters to be broken up, then for a concrete grab to come and get the debris, before then the people can come along and install. Yes, Councillor Brown.
A concrete grab lorry would be able to pick it up from the excess from inside the car park, from being out on the road. It would have enough reach to reach over the hedge that is there. So whoever is doing it could take it, put it inside the car park, behind the hedge. It can then be picked up all in one lump, rather than us paying to get rid of what the ground staff break up, then us getting charged for taking away what's taking out the holes for when the posts are done.
Councillor West.
So the other alternative, I suppose, is while you're breaking up, spoil up, put it on the back of your lorry, take it up to where our spoiler heap that we pay for grab to take away the rubbish anywhere and to that.
There's the problem is the planters are not filled with soil. The planters are filled with rubble and concrete. So there is an awful lot in there. I found out when I actually emptied them out of soil, because I wanted to have more depth for plants in there, because I wanted to put permanent plants in. There just isn't the depth. There's literally that much soil in the top. The rest is all concrete. So I think, bearing in mind the volume and the fact that when you break it, you end up with at least twice as much. It does need just to go in a pile in the car park, which the staff can do. They can then wait until the people have come to dig the hole for the gate to be put in, the entrance barrier to go in, because that will need holes, and obviously that's more concrete that will need to come out. That can then go on that pile. A grab lorry can collect it from over the hedge. We've saved money with the staff actually breaking up the concrete, and we just pay for the installation of the gate, which is why I asked Francis for individual costings. Councillor Andreoli.
Just checking whether the piece of equipment that we are talking about hiring for the staff to use will interface with their Habby watches, so that we know that they individually aren't having too much vibration while they're doing the work.
They don't use the Habby watches. Councillor Brown.
I think the information they're given when they're hiring it tells them how long they can work on a piece of machinery.
This is a tricky one, isn't it? It might be.
That tool, you're meant to be hammering down the ground with it, so they're going to have to, I don't know how they can hold it up.
You start at the bottom.
Well, they can stand it. They can stand in the planter and hammer it down to break it. It's not.
The only thing I would suggest, if you were going to hold it up, and which everyone else said we go, is almost put a groove, strong rope around it, so someone's holding it or someone's drilling it. But the ideal thing is to hold it that way down the bottom around. So I would suggest that you do that, but I'm saying that it's done at times. And so the tricky time will be on every 20 minutes.
You have to do a risk assessment.
Okay, so I'm proposing that we hire the petrol hydraulic breaker pack.
Second.
Show of hands, please. And against? Thank you very much. So that's this one, Francis, thank you.
Yeah.
And then removal of the debris. To consider quotes received for the removal of debris from dismantling the concrete planters. And as Councillor Brown has suggested, it's probably best to wait until the holes have been dug for the posts to go in for the height barrier. We have quotes for that.
170 and 140.
170 plus VAT from Grab It All, and 140 plus VAT from TJ Skips. Or TJ Grab Lorries. A grab lorry is a grab lorry. I propose we go with the cheaper option. Show of hands, please. Thank you very much. And against? Abstain? Thank you.
Sorry, was there just one?
One abstention, that's good. And then installation of the height barrier. To consider the quotes received for the supply and installation of an approximately 2.3 metres high and 4.8 metres wide removable and lockable height barrier at the entrance to the car park. Councillor Brown.
The width is far too wide. Their standard character ranges from 2.2 metres to 2.4 metres. I do understand that it was just a guide put on there.
Francis has asked for the maximum width possible so that we can reduce it, and it's likely the cost will be less. So she went for the maximum amount so that it can be reduced. Francis?
Yeah, I had no instructions as to what size or what height, so I chose the same height as the one we have at Ashling Car Park, Ashling Road Car Park, and the width is the maximum width, so it's the width. Once the concrete plants have gone, it's that maximum width there is about 4.8 metres. But if committee would like to tell me what they want, I will amend the quote.
Councillor Ranger?
I can't remember what the actual quote was. I can't get it on my file. But it seemed expensive, if I recall.
£6,072 including VAT for one of them.
Or what the other one is £3,905.
Oh, sorry, you can't. There is a third one.
Oh.
And the...
Oh yes, yeah, no, this. If I just explain this one, because you've got options here. So the labour was 2,100 is your basic price, and then depending on whether you want it powder coated or galvanised and powder coated, there are further costs on top. So if you want it just powder coated on both posts, including the labour, it would be 3,941. If you wanted it galvanised and powder coated on both, as I said, we'd have it green, it's 4,109, which is about is in the same ballpark as Ferndon.
From my recollection, we budgeted nearly 7,000, didn't we?
Yes, I have that written down somewhere.
I'm just going to look on my laptop because I haven't got the budget to hand. Councillor Brown?
I'm going to throw one in the ballpark as to why we are actually doing this and spending this amount of money on it.
Because it was agreed when we discussed at the budget meeting, it was agreed in the budget and therefore has been put in on the committee agenda as all budget items are. 6,780 is actually what we budgeted, so we're coming in well under budget for that. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, but that includes
the hire of the breaker and the grab lorry. Yes.
The reason for my questioning is the one thing this will lead, or has the potential to lead to, is the barrier getting driven into, as it has done in Ashling Park Road. Two, the fact that anyone in a vehicle that is higher than that height will need the lock to be opened, which at the moment they don't. At the moment, as it is, we cannot get a traveller incursion in that area because you can't get a caravan through that gap.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Any further comments? Councillor Andrioli.
I'm concerned if we go for a 4.8 metre width, that will allow vehicles that we don't want in there.
Can I propose that we go for the same width and height that we have at Goodman Fields? That seems to work. We don't have people driving into it. It seems to be a reasonable width to allow suitable vehicles in there. Councillor Brown.
I'd be wary about how wide that is, because that is wide enough to get quite a wide vehicle and someone walk past it. That's probably more than that distance, I would have thought.
Councillor Ranger.
What's the width of the one in Ashton Park Road then, where the...
Even wider, I think.
Is that even wider, is it? The one that's by the car park and off the...
Virtually past two cars past each other, I think.
Councillor West.
No, you can't.
Turn option, there's left turn option in Hamilton Road. Isn't there? It means you'll turn in tight so you're all going to get an angle to turn.
which is the problem with the bollards being there.
Yeah, but I mean,
Because
if you
people
reduce it, 4.8 you would turn easy into it. If you reduce it, you would struggle to turn into it. You'd have to manoeuvre and block the traffic. That's the only thing I know about it.
I think provided we have the height restriction, the width is not too much of an issue. Councillor Brown?
The issue you have with the height restriction is when we have incursions, the locks always fall off. Just putting it out there.
Okay, Councillor West?
So what's wrong with maintaining the width that we've got now? Just keeping it at that width.
Because people keep hitting the planters.
Which I'm more careful.
Yeah.
It's smaller colour.
We don't have a problem with it.
But that is the problem. I painted them white and within 3 days both sides were scuffed. Councillor Brown?
As I say every time on this, I can get a standard transit van through there.
Can I suggest in that case that we make it the width a foot wider than the current width, which will allow sufficient room for those that are struggling at the moment to get through the bollards. And we have it at the same height as the Goodman Fields. Councillor West?
I'll let Councillor Brown go first because I agree in second. I'll let him go with the comment first.
Councillor Brown?
If we have it at the same height as Goodman Field, I can't get my transit in there.
Absolutely.
So I've got an air vent on the roof, and I
And
know I can't get in Goodman's with
I
it.
was very nearly going to point out that someone hit the bollard, Goodman Fields. However, I'm
Yes, it damaged my
afraid...
van, but I haven't claimed yet.
Councillor West?
I'll go back to second or proposal.
Thank you very much. Can I have a show of hands? All those agree that it's a foot wider than the current bollards, the width restriction on the current bollards, and it's the same height as Goodman Fields. And against? Thank you very much. So we now need to agree which quote we're going with.
They all had 10 out of, well, the two that we've got quotes from both had 10 out of 10 on Checker Trade or My Builder or whatever it is. So I'm tempted to say whichever one provides the cheapest quote.
Councillor West?
Suppose we go with the cheapest one.
Okay. Provided it's green.
Yeah, what I mean is I'll get new quotes for the new size, and whichever is cheapest, that's the one you tell me to go with.
If that, I'm happy to make that as a proposal.
I'll say.
Show of hands then, please. And against? Thank you very much. Item 10. Kidmore Field, 10.1, metal detecting. To consider a request from one of the ground staff to have a licence to metal detect at Kidmore Field. Councillor Brown.
We did this as a one-off before to a member of staff. I can tell you that Kidmore Field on the archery side is metal detected on a very regular basis, and there's not a lot that we have found in there, because we have to metal detect to find our arrows, because we're not allowed to leave them in the field. And I don't see the point in having someone go there and dig more holes in the field.
My only concern would be that if we allow a member of staff, we ought to allow anybody that makes a request. Councillor Andrioli.
I was going to propose that we have allowed a member of staff to do Goodman's Fields, and I was going to propose that we allow a member of staff to do Kidmore Field, and pointing out that there would be very little point in doing the archery side, from what we've just been told.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Brown.
I thought we'd given a member of staff a licence to do this field, and also the fact that Goodman Field is open to anyone to apply to a licence for.
I think anywhere is open for a licence for anyone to apply for on this basis. Francis?
We have previously allowed people to metal detect at Goodman Field with licences, and I think there should still be a notice on the notice board that says if they want to, they can apply for a licence. A member of staff previously asked to metal detect at Kidmore Field to find his wedding ring, which he had lost. This is a different member of staff who is a very keen metal detectorist who would like to detect purely out of interest.
Councillor Ranger?
Forgive the question, but in terms of any findings, then they split 50-50 with the organisation. Is that the case?
That is our licence agreement.
Yes.
It is. I haven't seen the licence being forgiven.
No.
No, we have a licence that, yes, they have to treat things as they should. And
Councillor Brown?
treasure trove, etc.
As if the member of whoever is metal detecting declares what they find. There's the big clause in it.
So we have a proposal that we agree to this request, and we have a seconder. Can I have a show of hands, please?
2, 3.
And against? Okay, thank you. Item 11, Goodman Fields. 11.1, Overlord show additional parking to receive a verbal update. Councillor Andrioli and myself, I've walked this now 3 times, and I wanted a second opinion, so it wasn't just me saying to you. Councillor Andrioli.
There is nowhere. There is nowhere there that where A, there was any sign of a bridge, B, there is a sufficient gap between the large oak trees to avoid risking damaging them, and there is nowhere to, I don't know where the Overlord people saw a possibility, but I can't see one.
Not without taking out a large stretch of hedgerow.
And risking trees, because
Yeah.
there are substantial oak trees there.
Councillor Brown.
There is a bridge. If you go right to the back of the backfield, the stream diverts off at an angle, and there is a concrete platform across, but I think it goes into the fields behind.
There is nothing into our land.
It's not into our
but
land.
I think that's the only place that there is anything.
We walked there, that was the bit that you got hit in the face with the bramble.
Yeah.
In behind the trees.
Yeah. You didn't have to tell the world that I walked into a bramble. Thank you.
Was she holding it and then just...
Yeah.
No, she wasn't tall enough to hit.
Councillor West.
Is there an area to put a bridge?
Not that we could see. I mean, the whole thing is ditched all the way along, apart from one area where there is really quite a width of hedgerow, as in at least the width of this room.
So you'd have to remove a hedge.
You'd have to remove that to put in a bridge.
I suggested there was an area here, then to put one of their baby bridges up there.
That's kind of why I've looked several times, and that's why I wanted to take Councillor Andrioli for a second opinion. I couldn't see anywhere, and neither could Councillor Andrioli.
As I say, there may well be something further up, but it's not into Goodman Fields.
No.
So I don't think that we can. On the grounds that we can't see any way from the get in. As to whether we could let them if they could, is another matter, which I have an opinion on. But
So if you're sorry,
I was going to say, did they have an issue last year with parking or lack of it?
well,
Yes.
so they told us.
Councillor Brown.
They always have a problem with parking because they tend to park in the estates around, which they quite often put signs up to say residents parking only, which you can't do, but they do always park in the houses around.
So if Councillor Andrioli was proposing that we unfortunately need to decline because there is nowhere for us to enable access, I will second that.
Yeah.
Can I have a show of hands, please? Thank you, that's unanimous. Item 12.1, Councillor Andrioli has declared an interest and will therefore leave the room. Okay, so we have received an email from the resident at the Meadow saying that he is concerned that we have no records of maintenance the team carry out across the parish. How do we control the cost of the work? How does the team know when the next work is required without a record of the previous work? We'd like to understand how much the maintenance of the land next to his property is costing the taxpayers of Denmead. I would hope that the Denmead Parish Council can account for these costs, otherwise I will need to question how your budget is calculated and spent. You explain at least once every 3 years the trees are inspected, yet you have given me 2 dates 5 years apart. Can you explain what happened here? I'm also looking for records from 2005. Can you send me each survey from this year to 2025, please? I'm assuming that these will be at a maximum of 3 years apart, given your time frame of inspection. For example, when I moved into the property, the hedge clearly hadn't been maintained or inspected, given it was over a metre on the footpath. I had to ask a number of times for someone to come out and clear it. I'm not sure how you've come to the conclusion that trees do no damage to my property, given they have already blocked my guttering and garden drainage twice last year. If this is to happen again over 2025, will Denmead Parish Council accept liability? Can you explain why the trees on Forest Road had the work carried out? You say it was part of a general maintenance programme. I'm trying to understand how the trees next to my property didn't come under the same programme. So to take the first paragraph, the works undertaken on the land adjacent to the property are undertaken by our grounds team, not by external contractors who invoice us for works undertaken. And generally the grounds team work around the village working on different areas at a time, and they know where they've already worked, so they know where needs doing, and also if they're working on an area, they can clearly see that if they're working next to an area, that area either needs work doing or is okay for the moment. With regards to the next paragraph, with regards to at least once every 3 years the trees are inspected, the 2 dates that we've provided previously were the formal tree surveys that we have undertaken, which give, in effect, a red, amber, green rating for the trees as to whether or not work is urgent or not. In between periods, the trees are visually inspected by our staff. If works are required, they are then scheduled for the work to be done. We do not keep a record of visual inspections of the trees. There are over 3,000 trees in the parish, and it's not realistic to expect us to keep that kind of a record. It would be too great an administrative burden. If the visual inspections reveal that works are required, then those works can be undertaken by the grounds team. Then they will be. If they are needed for us to get tree surgeons in, then that is outsourced, of course, to a tree surgeon. With regards to the hedge outside of the property boundary, that is being maintained on behalf of the parish council, or it was at the time being maintained by the gentleman that lived in the property at the time. Once we were made aware that the previous owner had died and that the new purchaser did not wish to carry out maintenance of that grass and hedge area as the previous resident had done, we resumed maintenance responsibility. With regards to leaves blocking gutters, it may be an inconvenience, but it's pretty easily remedied and very easily mitigated against in the future if it is causing an issue by putting mesh or grills over the gutters and drains. It's not feasible for the parish council to ensure that no leaves end up in people's gutters. The trees on Forest Road, work was carried out. That all of the trees in the village are under the same maintenance programme, but the trees on Forest Road were visually inspected by the head groundsman and required work, and the trees outside of this property do not require work at this time. Is everybody agreed that that is a summary of Parish Council's response? Councillor Brown.
I think with the leaves and blocking guttering, it's called inconsequential, if I can say it, inconsequential damage, which we were told by a solicitor before about leaves at another property.
And acorns.
And it is the nature of being next to near a tree.
Can I have show of hand? Oh, sorry, Councillor James.
He asked about costs, and reference to that. So I think you ought to make some comment to say that this actually falls within the general maintenance programme for the BPC. Is there a budget online that they can access?
Just our administration and ground staff salaries, and that all of that information is published.
In which case you just say it's really difficult to break it down to such small parts as you've already said, there's 3,000 trees plus. I think you'd make some reference to that.
Okay. I'll ask Francis to draft that for us. Councillor Brown.
I would say I think the tone of this email is in order to discredit the council and to try and get a piece of land put up for sale, as it has had numerous applications before. I think this is all this email is about, and should, if we get another one, be classed as vexatious because it's now ongoing.
I don't believe it qualifies under our vexatious policy because it's not repeated questions about the same items.
Yeah, and we can deal with what we have on the table and that's what we're doing at the moment.
So are we all agreed that that should be the response? Can I have a show of hands, please? Thank you. Could someone ask Councillor Andrioli to return, please? Item 12.3, land at River End. To consider a request to purchase land at River End. So we have the documentation here which shows the land in question. It's at River End.
That's not it. That's the next one. The nature reserve.
Ah, okay.
These are the allotments.
Yeah, that's the cultivation plots. So it's at River End. So I'm assuming it's this house. Okay, so number 55. Okay. So we have the map. These are the cultivation plots here. This is the area that we have currently as a nature reserve, and it's this property here would like to extend their garden across and purchase that area of land from us. Councillor Brown.
As we've just spoken about a piece of land that we have refused to be sold, I don't see why this piece of land would change our minds into land being sold. And I don't know if there would be a covenant as to whether we were allowed to sell it, because it was how it was handed over to us.
It's my personal thought that it's our job as a parish council to maintain and retain amenity land for the village. If we were to sell off all of the parcels of land that we're responsible for, we'd have an awful lot more building up to boundaries, and we would have an awful lot less greenery in the village. And for me, as I've often written in Denmead Scene, it's the greenery that makes this such a nice place to live.
That's a proposal, I seconded it.
So I'm proposing that we don't sell the land. Councillor Jones has seconded. Can I have a show of hands? All those in agreement? That's unanimous. Thank you. So moving on to item 13, trees and hedges. 13.1, Southwick Road, to consider the quote received from the Parish Council's preferred contractor for maintaining the trees on Southwick Road. So this is from Tree Works, to reduce the height of all the trees between Lowland Road and the footpath after the bus stop on Southwick Road. Trees are to be reduced to varying heights, most trees to approximately 35 feet. Reduce all overhanging branches back to a safe distance from the roadside. Branches over driveways are to be reduced as hard as possible. Remove any hazard, disease trees completely. Chip is to remain on site to be left clean and tidy at all times, and a banksman is required for traffic and pedestrian control. So this is a cost of £4,500 for the tree reduction and removal and hire of a cherry picker, so the total cost is £6,420. Can I ask what height the trees are at the moment? So we're talking about bringing them down by almost half.
Probably not half, no. So, but some are that tall. They're all different heights, really.
I think the tallest is 70 foot, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
So why do we, sorry, excuse my ignorance, I'm not a tree expert by any stretch of the imagination. Why do we need to bring them down that much?
This is sort of coinciding with, you know, when the kids have got that shared drive.
Yeah.
Going up their drive.
But we've said for that they need to contact their insurance company.
I don't know where 35 feet comes from, because I've told Dave to just take off about maybe 15 feet. So I didn't actually say 35 feet. I just said I want them tidied up. I think it'll keep everybody happy and just sort of cut away. There are garages that the trees, I mean, I've lopped quite a lot off. I can only get so high and they're going right over and they're touching some of the houses. So I said the quotes we had before were quite severe. And I said, I don't think we need that. I think if you just got them nice, Dave won't butcher them. And I said, I just want a nice height all the way through, and just the stuff that's going onto the road, that's soon going to be hitting buses and lorries, and it's quite overhanging.
Okay.
So, but I don't know if 35 feet.
Well, I mean, that's what it says in the quote. I would be horrified to see trees that are currently 70 foot high to reduce to 35 foot. That's one of the main roads through the village, and as we've just said about greenery, and you know, trees are part of what makes it nice to drive through the village. Councillor Jones.
We need to have a look and be quite specific with what we want removed, because if you leave it to them, chances are that they will have seen them when they were there, and they will say, you need to cut that stuff a lot more. So I think we need to define again what we want to remove.
Councillor Brown.
I think over the highway is only 5 metre height, isn't it? And that we need to be any branch above 5 metres. How far they hang over doesn't really matter unless they're likely to pull the tree over.
Yeah, but if he's cutting the sides down towards the houses, he can't leave this side. You've got to shape the tree. Otherwise, there's going to be too much weight this side.
Councillor Brown.
I would like more specific on, as Councillor Jones says, as to what's actually being done. I'm concerned that we are just cutting a lot of trees back, and we are getting complaints about how much work is being done and how many trees were taken out.
Well, that was the last meeting. We had a member of the public come and has written in since. Okay, so Sam, can we get more specific information to come to the next meeting? Thank you. 13.2 is tree pruning and maintenance. To consider the extent of tree pruning to be undertaken by the grounds team or external suppliers. And this kind of also goes into 13.3, the hedge pruning and maintenance, to consider the extent of hedge and shrub pruning to be undertaken. So Sam, at the last meeting we had a member of the public come. There is an area next to their house that's been pruned back really hard, and then the following year pruned back hard again, and they're concerned it's going to take sort of 5 to 10 years for it to grow back again. And I know we've also had, I've had comments from residents about the corner of Southwark Road, Forest Road, where we've cleared a lot behind there. So the work that's been undertaken, why have we taken out so many of those sort of trees and shrubs?
Those are goat willows in there. All the ones that come out of here are goat willows.
Okay, what's the problem with goat willows?
They're a high water demand species, and it was in It was in the annual maintenance programme that we would remove goat willows that were close to housing because they are a high water demand species.
Okay, but on that corner of Forest Road, there's a car park behind there, so it's not actually close to houses.
Well, the things you're going to check the car park out. And that fencing already collapsing where it's foundation fencing.
Okay.
There needs to be more clarity in what we need to do with the trees, because the woman on Lowland Road, now she's going to come back again because this work isn't going to be done. And that's the third quote I got from Dave.
Okay.
So what are we doing with the trees? Do we want to reduce the don't take the driveways up? I mean, that man said that you don't have to reduce trees, it won't make any difference at all. So when that woman puts in a complaint saying my drive's come up, what are we saying?
Well, we've said previously to that lady that she needs to contact her insurance company.
No, I'm quite happy to leave the trees down there.
Are they our trees?
No, the ones, you know, like from, where, like on that, yeah.
There are
On my
trees.
land, yeah.
Right.
So I'm quite happy to leave them. Because you're just going to get that woman keep saying, well, it's taking our drive up.
Okay.
That's originally what I've come back today, so I need to quote it again. Do we leave it?
It's just an observation, just walking around the Dalton Road days, but it does seem that the tree, or hedges, I don't know what constitutes the edge of the tree, but height-wise, but it does seem from an outsider looking in that it's been quite severe over the last 12 months compared to other years, whether that was on purpose or whether it was going to attack that corner versus that corner. And several people that have just commented because they know I'm on the council just said, look, any reason for it? People assume that either somebody wanted it done or it was dead or it had to be removed. And if that's the case, then that's how it goes, I suppose. But it does honestly just look like it's been.
That's because they've been left to get so tall.
Yeah.
And you take them down to a height where you cut them, it just looks drastic.
Yeah.
Actually, your hedge should be that height.
Yeah.
And in the landscape plan, it says all hedges to be kept to 4 feet.
Can't we do that?
Because you can't, otherwise you just cut them on the land.
No, I agree. Yeah.
Francis?
Yeah, the problem is that for the last 10, 15 years, the trees have not been maintained. They've just been left to grow. And so we now have some very tall trees that are very close to houses. For example, the ones on Ashling Greenway, which we have now had pruned, and they're a much better height. They're probably still too tall for where they are, but we can't cut them any lower without killing them.
Councillor Brown?
Sorry, how tall are the trees on Southwark Road that we're potentially looking to take 25 feet out top of? So when you look at that, 25 feet is less than or a third of what they are.
The original quote was one of the tree inspectors said, well, I won't do it. I'm not even going to quote you because you're taking too much of it.
Right. Councillor West?
So I thought we were off Southwark Road, I thought we were on 32 and 33. But we decided Southwark Road that Sam was going to come back with more information.
Yes, he is.
And like we're talking about the bushes and the trees, what we're doing with them. Isn't this to us to consider whether we're going to use our own staff or external staff to carry on the works? Not about how they are and what we're taking out and when we're taking out.
Sorry.
Or it's to consider the extent of tree pruning to be undertaken by the grounds team or external. It's not whether we use internal or external, it's to consider the extent of what we ask either of them to do. So is it that we're doing hedges to 4 feet, whether it's an external contractor or whether it's our team? Is it hedges at 4 foot or is it 6 foot that would be a normal fence height? I mean, the purpose of the hedgerows down Forest Road was to cover the fences behind so that it was a green street as you drove down. But the shrubs now are so thin where a lot have died, and there was an awful lot of dogwood down there as well, which I think we've taken out. So they're now quite thin. So there are, and also we've had to take out trees because of subsidence claims, etc. So there are a lot of very bare patches down, for example, Forest Road now. Councillor Brown?
Hedgerows would be used as a sound barrier as well, which is why they would be allowed near houses to grow slightly higher, I would have thought, because they deflect the noise from the traffic away.
No.
But that's the idea of it.
Yeah, but they don't.
Councillor West?
Sorry, you've got something going on that you said it's in the plan that they need to be 4 foot, but that's our plan.
Councillor Langford Smith drew my attention to this, which is the Landscape Policy General Statements, which says, in general, hedges will be cut annually to 4 feet high and 6 foot wide, so they can be managed by flail. This allows regeneration to approximately 6 foot between cuttings.
So they'll cut to 4 and then they're allowed to grow to 6, but they're supposed to be 6 foot wide.
Up to 6 foot wide.
Yeah,
Up to 6 foot.
and we've got some that are like really tiny.
Sorry, let's not stop on the height, but if we're telling them down to cut, once they're 6 foot down to 4 foot, then if we don't want them to do that, we need to change that.
Yes,
And get on doing what you're doing.
yeah, absolutely.
I think we're still on tree, aren't we?
Yes, well, I kind of merged the two, unfortunately. So tree pruning, Sam, is it feasible that where we need to do tree works that is going to look quite drastic, that it's done, so if there are 5 trees that need work, is it possible to do work on 3 and leave 2 so that it doesn't look as drastic, and then do the 2 on a different, yeah.
Do you know exactly what we're going to
I
say?
do,
You're
I do.
bringing a piece of machinery in to
yeah,
do one
I know,
piece of work,
as
taking
Councillor
it
Ranger
away and
just
then
said.
bringing it back again.
I'm just trying to avoid the impact that we've got on the corner of Southwark Road and Forest Road, which so many people have complained about. Councillor Brown?
I think one thing we need to do, as we said before, that we would do, is inform people when maintenance is going to happen in an area, which we haven't done, which is why, and yes, it's drastic because we have to go in, because Sam's not going back every year or twice a year to do the same area. It's got so much stuff to cover. It will be a couple of years, or 3 years maybe, before you get back to that area. So the growth will become massive again, and you take it back down again. That's what happens.
I understand that, but the way that it was explained to me was on the corner of Forest Road, it was described as an ecological disaster, was the terminology used, and the fact that that will take decades to regenerate. That's not it will be grown back in 3 years' time, because we've taken out stuff with trunks that were a foot wide. That's not going to regenerate. They are now gone. Councillor West?
Then if we're having to do work that's drastic, then why don't we just buy hedges and put them back in to fill the gap?
We've planted a hedge along Roman Green, haven't we? But they're whips. That will take 20 years.
You can buy bigger hedges. You can buy big. You haven't got to buy whips, you can buy. I'm sure you can buy varying size hedges.
Francis?
I was going to say, we have got a load more whips coming under the Dig Trees scheme again.
Yeah.
And as you are aware from the ongoing projects, I'm looking at the Community Hedge Fund to see if we can get some bigger hedging through that fund.
Councillor Brown and Councillor West.
I think if we do have to take stuff out like that, then when we put something back in, we buy a substantial tree, not just a twig that you can't see. They've just done it down in Copneth. They've gone down the road, taken some substantial trees out and replanted them, and the trees they're probably 2 to 3 inches across at 4 foot, so they're quite reasonably sized trees, that they're putting back in. I think that would help in the fact that you can see something that's been put back in, rather than putting something that's this big and is,
Councillor West? The Cotton Road, I was going to say exactly the same thing. I mean, don't wait for go out and buy something substantial with a bush or tree to fill that gap.
And are we looking at native trees?
Obviously, just we're looking at anything Sam says, so I don't know about, but whatever's best for growing in that particular area.
A mixture.
Okay, Councillor Brown?
Well, we've already said that we are looking for stuff that's not too water sapping, so that it doesn't cause the same issue again. That's what we were looking for.
Holly is a good one because it can be planted reasonably close and it is evergreen and it also provides berries. Okay, so we would like more significant trees put in if we have to do drastic cut in an area. Is that general agreement? Yep, okay. And hedge pruning? Councillor Andrioli.
We have a specification. I mean, if the hedge belt is thin, then we need to be replacing. But on the other hand, if it's only going to be 4 foot tall, when it's cut anyway, then the smaller hedge planting can go in. And it's obvious if we put in hedge, a row of hedge to fill in the gaps in the hedge. So I think we have a specification. Leave it at that.
Okay, so do we want supplementary planting where we have thin hedgerows?
Yeah.
Councillor Brown?
I would like that we have a variation in the hedge height because not every hedge needs to come down right down to 4 foot. In certain places there are places where a 4 foot hedge or a 6 foot hedge are appropriate in their setting because they will block headlights and things like that from people. It's only my...
So we'll do the policy say once it hits 6 foot, cut to 4 foot, so we can say change it to 4 to 6 foot.
So between 4 and 6 foot depending on the circumstances of the location.
Sorry.
Councillor Brown?
Does that work for Sam?
I mean, they're all different heights anyway. Some of them are so mature now you couldn't cut them.
Okay, so between 4 and 6 foot depending on location. All agreed? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Sam. Francis?
Sorry, can I just check what's been agreed on this?
So, tree pruning, you're okay on that one?
For the tree pruning
and maintenance, so if we have to do drastic work, then we will put in more mature trees as opposed to just saplings. And for the hedge pruning, we will amend our policy to be for a hedge height to be between 4 and 6 foot, depending on the location, and also where we have thin hedgerow, we will supplementary plant.
Yeah, thank you.
Or lacking hedgerow, we'll supplementary plant.
And notify people.
And we will notify people. So item 14, moving on very quickly because we are. The amendment to the licence to cultivate. To consider the amendments to the standard licence. So Frances has put these in colour for us. So she's changed British Telecom to any telecommunications company because obviously we've got various working now, not just BT. And added item 18, not to do anything on the land which may attract rodents or other vermin or pests, such as, for example,
bird feeder.
Bird feeders in our trees, because that's a complaint that we've received. Does anyone have any comments on that? Is everyone agreed to those amendments? Thank you very much. 14.2, a licence to cultivate on St George's Road. To note that the existing licence to cultivate from Hampshire County Council expires on the 10th of September, and to consider whether or not to renew the licence by making a new application. So this was on the green at St George's Terrace where we planted wildflowers. Do we wish to renew our licence to cultivate, or do we wish to wait and see what's happening with Hampshire and whether or not they just hand the land over? Councillor Andrioli.
Well, I think it would be at least a year before that's likely to happen anyway, so I suggest we go ahead and renew the licence to cultivate. Well, I suppose that we do.
Councillor West. Sorry, Francis.
I would just like to say there are costs involved. It's
There are.
£209 to apply for the licence.
Councillor West. Okay, so we have a proposal to renew the licence to cultivate, which has been seconded. Can I see a show of hands, please? Thank you very much. Item 15. 15.1 is
Sorry, Chair. Tracy looked quite bemused as to what a licence to cultivate. This is a piece of open space land that council has got a licence to cultivate on, so that we can plant things on, rather than it being someone else.
It means that we maintain it rather than Hampshire contractors. So Hampshire quite often subcontract to Winchester, Winchester then subcontract to someone like Norse, and then they come along and decimate everything. Yeah. So we have a licence to cultivate so that we can plant bulbs and things like that.
We're not allowed to touch the trees.
No. 15.1 KGV play area, new picnic bench to consider replacing the rotten picnic bench at the KGV area. So we have heavy recycled plastic picnic benches. That's Andrioli.
I propose that we go for the cheapest one that's brown.
Francis.
The reason I chose this particular bench, it's not the cheapest, is because it is wheelchair accessible by having both ends rounded. You can get ones where one of the seats is missing and you can put a wheelchair in there, but then it means only 3 other people can sit.
Yeah.
And if you've got a family of 4, they then can't use it. Whereas this seemed to me to be a better solution because you could have a wheelchair at each end. And we have got funds.
How accessible is our play area for a wheelchair? Isn't it on bark chippings and sand?
No, there's grass. This is KGV. There's grass in there as well.
Okay. So we have a proposal for a heavy-duty recycled plastic picnic bench with an extended top to enable wheelchair access. Cost is £581.33, excluding VAT. We have the budget. Is everyone agreed that we should purchase this? Thank you very much. Item 15.2, KGV bench in the play area. This is to consider a bench with a back. So at the summer show last year, a lady asked us if we could put in benches with backs, because the picnic benches are not as suitable for elderly people who are sitting there for a long time. And she pointed out that people go there quite frequently with their grandchildren, and it would be nice to offer an alternative seating arrangement. Councillor Brown.
I propose we go with the bench that's been, the plastic bench that we've been provided.
Councillor Andrioli.
Yeah, I'm again going to say that the cheapest one of the ones we've got, as long as it's not brightly coloured, but is brown.
I gave you different options because one's got arms. See, this doesn't have arms, and the ones over the page got arms. On the back of this one.
With or without arms?
With arms.
So I would suggest we go for the Dale, in which case it's £318.92 with arms, and we go for a brown bench, or do we wish to have a green bench? Councillor Brown.
Which is still a brown picnic bench, I think. Brown would make sense.
You can have the picnic bench in green.
Are we all agreed a brown Dale bench? Show of hands, please. Thank you very much. 15.3 is the skate park, to consider the quotes received for repairing the skate park. So, Francis, can I ask you to summarise on these, please?
As committee might recall, we did approve the replacement of 4 of the ramps last year. However, because we only had one quote, because I could only find one company to quote, RFO wasn't happy to approve that spend. I've since found a second company that would provide a quote, which is AXO Leisure. So we now have 2 quotes for the replacement of 4 ramps. However, come the 1st of April, we will then have a £20,000 budget for the skate park, which means we could actually replace all the broken ramps, not just the 4. The only issue that we have with that is that the second company that will quote for the 4 will not quote for the larger work, because they would have to, they're based in Yorkshire and would have to come down here and stay down here a week to do those works. However, I've been...
A point of order, we need to suspend standing orders in order to extend the meeting. I can't recall the specific standing order, I think it's 16.2, but can we please suspend standing orders to enable us to finish the agenda this evening, if members would be so gracious. I suspect it will only take us a maximum of another 15 minutes. Can I show of hands, all agreed please? Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Andrioli. Sorry, Francis.
So the company in Yorkshire refused to give a quote for doing all of the bits, because it means they would have to come down, the work would have to stay on site for 7 to 8 days to carry them out. However, on speaking to the RFO as to how we get round this, because we will only have one quote for doing all of the park, she advised that if committee were to agree that Evolution Skate Parks, who were the people that built it in the first place, were our preferred contractor for carrying out these works, then she would accept that decision.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
I thought we'd made a decision to look into replacing the skate park because of the ongoing costs that it is costing every few years now. And one of the skate park people told us that it was beyond its life, the framework. And we were, I thought, looking into the fact of replacing it with potentially concrete ramps, which then don't have the maintenance issues or ongoing maintenance issues as most skate parks are made out of nowadays. So I'm loath to spend over £8,000 on a skate park that in a couple of years' time we're going to be spending at least that again.
The other quote's 12, nearly £13,000. Councillor Ranger.
Forgive me for being a bit of a journalist, but I mean, is it not something that the Denby community will either agree to spend or not agree to spend if they believe there's a value in having an escape park? I mean, there was a big hoo-ha about it when it was first launched and everyone came in from miles away, and if it's not being used or feedback accordingly, then maybe it's time to relook at it, the whole area, right? And not spend £12,000 or £8,000 maintaining it.
The Parish Council did receive over 400 letters. I was given them at one point and asked if I wanted to keep hold of them. So
400 letters to what, sorry?
Against the skate park. Against the skate park. Because of noise, etc., etc. I do believe that we did say that we would look into potentially replacing it, so it could be that we need to go to the community and ask for feedback. Councillor Brown, then Councillor Andrioli.
I see the fact that the skate park is worn out is the fact that it is heavily used, and there are a lot of kids that go in there and use it. Almost every time I've been in the park, there's kids on it. I think 400 letters of complaint shows you how long ago they were. When in the 80s, was it?
I'm not sure when it went in.
I think we should keep the skate park. It is up to us how the money is spent effectively, because we are elected to spend the money. And I think we should look into replacing it with something longer lasting.
Councillor Andrioli.
I think the 400 letters were actually people complaining that the original installation was too noisy. EVO came along and replaced the services, and the complaints stopped because it's a lot quieter. My recollection is that we agreed that we would keep the current skate park going and look to replace the individual items, maybe 2 at a time, and find out which needed replacing first and replace those. But it is very, very well used in all hours of daylight, effectively. even
Yes.
during school terms.
That's the people from
Um,
Yorkshire.
So I would say at
they're
this
not-
point we've got the budget for it. We should
They're
repair
not
it.
keen to do it, so it would be the evolution one.
Sorry, I'm just asking for clarification from the clerk. So the evolution one, that is to repair 4 pieces as well.
Which one is that?
That's evolution.
Yeah, 4 ramps.
Okay. So we've got 2 quotes to repair 4 ramps. One is for 8,250, the other is for 13,000. The 13,000 is Evolution, who did the surface in the first place. Councillor Andrioli.
Do we not also have one for 20,000 to do the lot,
Yes.
We do.
which we have budget for?
22 and a half.
I would propose that we say, because of the fact that they have maintained it all this time, Evolution are our preferred supplier, and that we go with their quote to repair everything with the budget from next financial year.
Councillor Brown.
So we spent £22,500 on it now. It lasts 2-3 years until we have to do work on it again. We spend another £22,000 on it in 2 or 3 years' time. We're of course at the point of getting close to of replacing the park.
Councillor Jones, then Councillor Andrioli.
I think the suggestion we made, 22,000 now makes sense. And in the meantime, we start investigating a full replacement and possible sources of funding to do such.
Councillor Andrioli.
Councillor Brown is correct. We do have I'm sure we have a resolution that we will look into replacing it with concrete. And in the meantime, we need to keep it going, and we've budgeted to keep it going.
Okay. So we have budgeted to keep it going. I'm sorry, I've forgotten who proposed. Councillor Andrioli proposed that we spend the £22,000 in next year's budget to undertake works to all of the ramps that require it, and that we also look into replacement with a more
And
permanent
also
solution.
We make that company our preferred supplier,
And Evolution is the preferred supplier.
so that the RFO is happy.
Councillor Jones has seconded that. Can I have a show of hands, please? And against? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Item 15.4, Mill Close Play Area. To consider the state of the multiplay unit at Mill Close Play Area. This is old and dilapidated. Sam has been there with the jet wash and made the area safer again. It was covered in moss and was very slippery. Sam has sorted that out, but I believe it's the little climbing house frame thing.
Multiplay.
That's the one. The multiplay is pretty dilapidated. Councillor Brown.
Can I ask why this hasn't been picked up in our playground inspections? Because that hasn't happened in the last 6 months or a year. That has been a problem for a while now.
I believe the playground inspection is due to happen at the end of this month.
But it
It's
happened,
every 6 months.
It happened 6 months ago, and that can't have just happened in 6 months.
So
I'd
you're
have to
asking
check.
us to consider whether or not we close the play area.
Or that we close down this piece of equipment
So Francis is suggesting that we close this piece of equipment.
until we have the next inspection.
Indeed. Councillor Andrioli and then Councillor West.
We have repaired this 2 or 3 times in the past by taking out the rotten wood and replacing it using what's there as a template. Not I think since our current head groundsman was here, but certainly under the previous head groundsman, this has been replaced at least twice to my knowledge.
Thank you. Councillor West.
I was just looking at that, I won't say just close it down, but remove it.
Does the whole thing need to be removed until... Well, we've got the playground inspection in a few weeks' time, so it could be that we close it off until the playground inspection, and they might just say that wooden platform needs to be replaced. Councillor Brown.
It worries me in the fact that we've gone round and jet washed it to get off a moss or slippery surface on a piece of play equipment.
No, it wasn't just on this, it was on a separate piece.
In the fact that it's built up that much that we are not, that they're not being looked at close enough. It shouldn't build up, and that should be picked up before it gets to that stage.
Yes, you can walk on that.
I understand that, but
I think that's probably a medium risk on the report. It wasn't flagged up that this needs to be shut down. So he has looked at that. They're doing it 6 monthly now. So he didn't shut it down.
And it is over winter, and we have had a very wet winter. So the question is, are we closing this piece of equipment off until the play inspection, or are we removing it? Councillor West.
How will you close it off to ensure that no one uses it?
We normally do Harris fencing, don't we?
Or tape.
Or tape. We either tape it or Harris fence it.
Tape isn't any good, is it?
It's locked at the minute with a chain.
Sorry?
It's locked with a chain.
Well, it's that bit of
The
equipment.
play area.
Play area, I'm not talking about.
Play area, yeah.
The rest of the equipment in the play area is fine, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we don't want to close that down. That piece
There's
of
only
equipment
two
is-
pieces in there.
Sorry?
There's only two
hardly
pieces
any
in there.
equipment in there. Councillor Brown.
I'm with Councillor. I don't think chaining the area, someone will climb a fence and go onto it.
It's a play area for very small children. Small children will not be able to climb the fence, and the equipment that's in there is not of the type that older children will want to go in there and play. Councillor Brown.
Just because it's a play area designated for small children, it doesn't mean it's only small children that play on it. I would, as Councillor West said, I think it should be removed.
Councillor Jones.
I think the inspection is in a couple of weeks' time. I leave it closed, I'll put a big sign up as well. See what's in 2 weeks' time.
Councillor West.
So this is a housing safety issue. I don't understand why we've been arguing about it. It doesn't matter whether the inspection's tomorrow or in 3 weeks' time. It only takes one child to stand on that at any one time, and it's a break. You can't say it's not going to break. It's going to break in 3 weeks, or it's not going to break in 3 weeks. Looking at that now, that's probably 90% gone. I would propose that it's removed.
Do we have the facilities to remove it?
It's got a unit. I don't know, it's 6 down.
That was my thoughts. You can see how high it is off the ground. It's that far off the ground, because it is aimed at very small children.
But you've seen reports of people falling off curves in their heads. I don't think it makes a difference. It's not so much if you were in the middle of it, it went.
Not remove the whole thing, the step.
If the whole, well, you can't be using the step on it, can it?
No.
But people can still climb on it without the step being there. No, I'm standing with it. The whole thing. If the whole thing is dangerous, then the whole thing needs to be removed.
Well, we don't know that. I don't.
No.
It's unlikely that the whole thing is dangerous. It's the step up that is that has disintegrated.
So whoever step up, how do they get onto it? But they can. Because they will.
A kid might be able to use their brakes at one time.
These children fall out of trees. That's fine.
No, but so if you take the step out, if you point yourself in the unit there, kids won't be able to use it. You might take the whole thing out.
That was my point.
Yeah.
Can we
Take the
replace
whole
the
thing.
step?
Yeah.
Can we replace the step?
Yeah, you could replace that whole step.
Should we do that?
Depends if you want to cost.
So I propose that we replace the step and then have the whole unit looked at in 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, when we've got the playground inspector looking at the whole unit. Because the rest of the unit is fine. Councillor Andrioli and then Councillor West.
I will second that, your proposal, because as I said, bits of it have been replaced before. Not the whole of it, but the wooden bits have been replaced.
Councillor West and then Councillor
So we'll guarantee we're going to get it. That's going to be replaced before the inspection.
Okay.
potentially people to climb on it.
So old, I don't know when that was put in place, I doubt they even do it. And that's, you see the post runs down through it.
I think it was.
I don't even know how they'll do that without having to take all the metal up.
I think it was 2005. This was put in.
That's a complete section.
Councillor Brown.
If you look at it, it's not only the front step. There's a board at the bottom picture that's down at an angle, which has got the edge missing off of it. You've got a bit by where there's a support for a pole that goes through the top step by the look of it, which is rotted away. And there's the nose off of the next step up, which is rotted away.
So in which case, I propose that we close off the play area completely. The gate is kept locked. We put signs up saying this area is out of use, and we put tape around all of the equipment until the staff can remove it.
Yeah.
Is that seconded as a proposal? Councillor Jones, thank you. Can I have a show of hands? All those agree? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Francis?
Are you happy to for me to cancel the playground inspection on this one?
On that one, yes, please.
No.
We're removing the equipment and closing the play area.
The
We've just
playground-
resolved that, Councillor Brown.
Sorry, the play area inspection is not just on the equipment that's in there, it's on the play area itself as well. The fencing and there's another piece of equipment in there, so you can't cancel the...
We've just closed the play area and said for that equipment to be removed.
We've closed the play area to have that piece of equipment removed, but there is still a play area there, which when it's removed will be reopened.
And there's another piece of equipment there, which needs inspecting.
And they inspect the fences, the signage, all the
Sorry,
rest of it.
I misunderstood the resolution. I
did
thought
I.
the resolution was that you were closing the play area
So
permanently.
that's exactly what my proposal
The
was.
proposal was to close the play area
Remove the equipment.
until the damaged equipment can be removed.
No, it was until the equipment can be
No.
removed. I didn't say the damaged equipment.
Well, okay.
I
well,
thought we were
don't
closing
see
down
any-
that as a play area.
I didn't see any point in taking out the good piece of equipment. Okay.
Yes, right, I see that. I thought just to remove that,
Yes.
Yeah.
not the rest of it.
There's a trampoline there. Quite
And a walking
good.
thing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So do you wish for the other pieces of equipment to remain in use if they pass a playground inspection?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, so we will retain the playground inspection then, please. Okay, thank you. Item 15.5, KGV cable ride. To consider the contents of an email received from Russell Play regarding the replacement of timbers on the cable ride. So they are saying that the remedial works for our play site, they've had feedback from the contract manager that work was carried out on site as planned and partially on Tuesday. However, the site was flooded and along with the weights of the timbers they had to halt work and they will come back at a future date when the site has dried out sufficiently to allow mechanical lifting. The cable ride is the only equipment that needs to be worked on, which should now be decommissioned and zoned off with Harris fencing for safety until work can resume. Francis.
The cable slide does not have a seat on it at the moment, and the actual wire is tied up, so it cannot be used.
Okay, thank you. So we don't actually need the Harris fencing because it literally can't be used. Okay, so we will have to wait for them to come back. Councillor Andrioli?
Yeah, as I said, as I walked past earlier today, you know, quite a large area of the equipment there is fenced off.
Yeah.
So they're obviously not yet finished their work. So in fact, there's very little in that play area at the moment.
Okay, so we will wait for them to come back. Item 16 is equipment, 16.1 is tractors. Consider the information on the current tractors owned by the parish council. So we have a table which states that the Kubota needs replacing because it is in a poor condition, along with the mowing deck. That's the B2230 tractor. The Kubota STW tractor is good, has recently been repaired. The other Kubota tractor The B3150 is in poor and good condition. It's recently been repaired but is becoming uneconomic to repair. Councillor Brown.
I think it follows on from our discussions last time about having the axle repaired in the previous one. As to what the condition of the tractors were, that's where, well, I presume that's where this has come from.
You asked at the last meeting for information on the tractors and the state of them.
So we've basically got 3 tractors. One is in a poor condition, one is good, and the other one is varying.
One, the poor condition one's 2007. So it's like,
And we think it was second hand when we bought it.
yeah.
Councillor Brown.
We put money away each year towards purchasing tractors and things. We need to
Don't
look
think
at.
we've got enough in the budget because we just bought the van, didn't we?
Well, if we've got a vehicle that is saying it's in poor condition and a mowing deck, and that needs replacing, we're going to be doing a lot of mowing very soon.
We do have another one that also has a mowing deck.
Yeah, but
Councillor Berry.
Wouldn't it be a good idea to look at leasing them, so that if they break down then, the company then brings another one in?
We have had previous conversations about leasing of vehicles, etc. And the problem with that is the fact that they expect them back in immaculate condition, and you get charged very heavily for anything that's not in immaculate condition. Councillor Brown.
they don't tend to bring you out another tractor. They will tend to take it away, repair it, and bring it back when they've repaired it.
Councillor Andrioli.
Pretty certain that the B2230 was second hand, and we part exchanged the previous one for it.
We've got refrigerator vehicles, but 2,000, but that's the next budget. I
Yeah,
can't
that's
see-
just the budget. We'll ask the clerk to come back to
Yeah.
truck and vehicle replacement, 9,452 in there. So we've got £9,000 in the budget in reserves and an additional 2,000 coming at the end of March, beginning of April. Do we want to ask Sam to come back to next meeting with a potential cost for any replacement vehicle that he might have found? Councillor Brown.
I think we have to. We've got a. If what we're agreeing what's being said there, and we've got one that says it needs replacing and it's in poor condition. And when we're coming up to the highest grass cutting period in the calendar.
Okay, we'll ask Sam to come back to the next meeting with. I'm assuming it will be a second-hand one for that price.
So then, the cost of tourism, what are them costs then?
They're
That's how much they were on the replacement
Yeah.
in 22.
So what other costs are you going to come out with then?
well, we haven't got the money then in that case. If the cost is £22,000,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
that would be for a new one.
Yes, that's a
So
brand
if we could look for a second-hand one.
And 4 to 5,000 for a new mowing deck as well.
Does the mowing deck for the B3150 not fit? Is it not a multi?
We've got 2 decks and then just got one for spare, but they're basically just all in pieces. The best, we've made up like the best of the 2.
Okay. So if you can come back to the next meeting with some replacement costs, that would be good. Thank you. 16.2 is a chainsaw. To consider purchase of a new chainsaw. We have costs of £799 for heavy agricultural use. What have we got in the budget?
I'm sure I've checked with Jenny that we've got. Yeah, we've got this from. The RFO has advised that funds are available from the tree work budget,
Oh,
Sage
okay.
Code 6085.
So we take it out the tree work budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's used for the,
4 trees, yeah.
yeah.
So we've got 37 and the tree works 37,000. Councillor Brown.
I don't understand why the head groundsman needs to come to this committee to ask to buy a chainsaw to do work that he needs it for. We have budget for it.
Because we don't specifically have budget for it, and that's why the RFO has recommended it to come to a committee and advised that the funds should come from the tree work budget, because we don't have specific budget for it. And it's not an insignificant expenditure.
No.
I propose we go ahead with it.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Can I just check with Sam? This is appropriate for our staff to use. Thank you. So we have a proposal and that's seconded. Can I have a show of hands, please? All those agree that we should purchase the Stihl MS390 20-inch high torque chainsaw. That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 17 is incidents. 17.1 is to receive any other reports of incidents at amenities managed facilities. We have a report of damaged property to our shipping containers. These are the ones up at Kidmore car park, and the locks were broken. Sam contacted me and asked me to get the new locks because there wasn't anyone in the office, so I have done so. So that will be coming through on orders for payment at due course. Councillor Brown.
Just to let you know that the containers, although they didn't break into them, the ones for the archery club were also slightly damaged on where the locks go on. They bent the catches up slightly, even to the one that didn't have a lock on it.
Okay, so we thank Sam for reporting that to the police. Councillor West.
What's kept in there? What's kept in there? So nothing of value.
Okay, thank you. Item 18 is social media. To consider what content could be added to council's social media output. Anything? We've got about the tree works and anything else like that. Councillor Brown?
I was going to say about the tree work.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? So we move on to item 19, matters... Sorry.
Is there updates for the playgrounds as well, just in case anybody's interested?
Oh, that's a good idea. Update for the play areas. Thank you very much for that. Item 19, matters for the next agenda. Please inform the committee clerk of any items you would like added to the next agenda. Thank you very much, everybody.